Hello, everyone. On this blustery night in Scotland, I don't know what it's like in Wiltshire. I think Trudy says it's about the same. But there's a hoolie on out there, which basically means the wind's being very noisy and it's got a lot of water with it. Then, it's Scotland and it's January, so what else can we expect? So we're here, snug as bugs in rugs, hopefully. Well, or chittering in a shed somewhere.
I've got my rug.
There you go. So we're going to be talking about things that are a little bit different tonight. We're doing a special. Now, we've kind of parked the phrase woo-woo because we don't want you to think that this is just something that can be discussed as or just thrown about as woo-woo. It's a very offhand way of dealing with this. It is, however, practically magic that we're going to be talking about. And magic is all about change. Magic is all about bringing something into being that perhaps wasn't there before. It's about shifting perspectives. It's about shifting energy. It's always more than you think it is. And there are so many more ways to actually put your finger on it. Touch it. Feel that little zing of energy. And then think, ooh, what happened there? How did I do that? Do you know, I think I'd like to do it again. So, since we have two people here that you don't know very well, one of whom is our first time here, so hopefully we're not going to frighten you away, Maxine, and Trudy.
I will tell.
And Trudy, who hasn't been for a while, but strangely enough, has chosen to arrive just in time. So, Trudy, introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. I'm Trudy from Wiltshire, the 5 Elements Retreats, and I am a holistic wellbeing practitioner and Reiki teacher. Very much into the woo-woo stuff.
Okay, Maxine, on you go.
I am Maxine and I live in the west of Scotland, and like Trudy, a wellbeing therapist, and I very much look to actually facilitate people to reconnect with their soul self, going into that core, and just back to who they were born to be.
Angela.
Hi, I'm Angela and I'm a health kinesiology practitioner as well as a hypnotherapist and a transformational coach, and I work with people pretty much on the same basis. And yeah, it's as Maxine said, it's making people realise the person they were designed to be and helping them get there if they want to go there.
That's the question, isn't it? People will only change if they want to. And sometimes what comes out of their mouth is that they want to. But what is actually in the backs of their minds is, I don't think you want to go there. So we're going to have a little bit of that today. Because do you really want to go there with us today?
Well, before we go anywhere, we'd like to know who you are.
I was just about to do that, Mrs. Jump in and disturb things.
You seem just about to get straight into it. So.
You know I go off on tangents and I still get back to the same place. So, you know.
I'm bringing you back quicker.
I'm getting bullied now. I'm getting interrupted and bullied now. So, I'm Leslie Marsh. And normally on the TiC, you'll hear me talk about hypnotherapy and you'll hear me talk about the different things, NLP, etc., and threshold, transitional situations, and yada, yada. The other thing that I do is I'm a shamanic practitioner and a Reiki practitioner. And I like magic. I don't just like magic. I love magic because it appeals to my sense of what is happening in the universe. So tonight we're going to talk about all things that are practical magic that may look like somebody has gone and done a little bit of hocus pocus and all that terrible, silly stuff. But actually, when you take away the fear-based protestations of, oh, that's just silly, actually, we are all very, very magical beings. Because we can do things that we don't even know. So, in this world that we have in the 21st century, how do we find magic? Where does it hide? Where do you think that is? Pretty.
Why did I know you're going to come to me first?
You see, magic.
Magic is within, and I firmly believe that if you seek it, you will find it. And you will get drawn to the right people at the right time to learn the right things that you need to.
So basically what you're saying is that magic has got a big part of fate, destiny, and anything in between.
Yep.
And recognizing that means that you're more likely to manifest, which is where the law of attraction is coming from, manifesting a change, a difference in your circumstance. Well, there have been people doing that with potions and spells and all manner of things for centuries. But we're getting better at it now because we don't need all that sulfur and kind of brimstone stuff and big pots to stir things in. We can do it in our heads.
Unless you really want them.
Oh yeah, I do love a bit of paraphernalia. Don't get me wrong. I have 2 cauldrons in this house.
Doesn't surprise me.
That doesn't surprise many people, actually. But it's when I take them outside at Beltane and jump over them when they're on fire that, you know, the neighbours kind of go, what the hell is she doing now?
You're embracing life and enjoying yourself.
Yes, exactly. You know, and who doesn't want to jump over a fire at Beltane?
Exactly.
Beltane's coming up very soon. So, you know.
Yes, I know. Yes. Sunday, I believe. Yes.
Fire ceremony, all fertility, wonderful stuff. So, yeah, it's got to do with a lot of the things that we want to happen. Now, one of the best descriptions of magic I ever heard, ever read anywhere, was that magic is the ability to change the laws of nature to bend to your will. So that's like whistling up a wind or making it rain or just getting somebody to do something that you want them to do, but they don't realize that they're doing it because you want them to. That's usually between husband and wife, but we won't go that far.
Yeah.
I would agree. Yep.
So experiences of magic. Well, you know, there's lots of things with husbands and you have to keep them right. You have to keep them right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes it's luckier to be that way. So, Maxine, in your soul work, now this is the interesting thing. A lot of people have many different ideas about soul, what it is, how it works, where it comes from, where it goes. What kind of experiences do you have with soul work in your work?
I have been a therapist for 20 years this year, and I've progressed to working with the soul. Started off Reiki, crystals, and everything that I've done comes back to finding that core of yourself. And when you were talking about the magic within us, I always think that that's hidden behind all the conditioning that we've picked up since we were born. I always remember it was Wayne Dyer. He said in a talk, a child is born and you look into its eyes and you can see the purity of their soul. And then what happens is the nurse hands them over to the parents and go, now it's up to you. And that is when the conditioning, we give the child a name. And the first thing we do is we start to compare it to other people in the family. Oh, it looks like this with the nature. And then society, everything comes in. And everything then is very much lost in the conditioning. And to me, the magic here is when you start releasing the conditioning, we start then to reconnect with what I call the soul self, and that core of what we were when we were born, that spark. And we talk about the soul, and it just depends on our belief systems and what we call it, but I call it like that spark of divinity, that connection to everything. So to me, when we start, and if you talk about the soul, so many people talk about it as if it's something separate from us. And this is where it's always like, we're trying to find our soul. Well, our soul's actually there. It's actually the core of us. So it's just that reconnection. And the more that you just get in and start that reconnection, and when we go in there and allow the soul to take over the driving seat, as opposed to the self, this self that we're all conditioned, we don't really need to do much in life, because the soul is magical. It knows exactly what we want. It knows what our purpose is. And if we let it into the driving seat, everything manifests to what we need. And to me, that is the magic.
Yeah, I think that basically that's an interesting way of putting it into the driving seat. The interesting thing is that there are so many people around who will yank that out of the driving seat because they are fearful and don't understand who you're being when you're actually ensouled.
Yeah, I always say that we come into this world on our own, and we leave on our own, and our soul is that something within us that only we can actually take that journey to, because everybody's unique, so their soul's unique, so their journey is unique. And I always think that uniqueness, to me, that's the magic of when we come together and we actually meet together and we can have the discussion and just hear everybody's views of the world, and just when their soul's starting to shine through, it becomes like that jigsaw, and we're all that piece of that bigger picture. And yet again, I'm going to use your word, Leslie, it's magical.
Yeah. In shamanic terms, we deal a lot with soul loss and soul retrieval. And when we talk about soul loss, we don't talk about the whole soul, well, sometimes it is. We talk about times when there's been trauma and stress at a point where it's become so hard and so harsh to be in that situation. Part of the soul has taken itself off to protect itself. So we get to see people who have these spaces inside them. It feels like there's a deep, dark hole inside, I've heard people say, and it doesn't matter what I do, I can't fill it. It doesn't matter how many bad relationships I have. It doesn't matter how much booze I drink. It doesn't matter how much dope I take. I cannot feel better. There's a hole there. It's impossible for that to happen. And then when we get to the point where we understand that that soul part is actually ready to come back, but it has to have a contract, because a soul part will only come back if that person is no longer in the situation that was going on when the soul part left. Why would it do that? Mm-hmm. So in order to heal, they have to have taken a step or two forward in getting themselves out of a situation where they were in domestic abuse, perhaps, in any kind of physical danger, putting themselves into physical danger, emotional danger, mental danger through drug use, or just keeping bad company and getting a fright during an accident because it happened because somebody else was driving the situation. And they just didn't feel that they had any power to say no. And that will happen. A part will take itself off. But when they come through and we discuss this and we actually say to them, okay, what was it you were doing then and what are you doing now? How are you feeling about this? And sometimes what they'll say to me is, I've been dreaming about myself at this age. I've been remembering having flashbacks of this, that, the other. Wow, okay. So what happened then? And then the shaman will journey to the soul part and say to the soul part, what is it you need? Go back. What do they need to be doing? What do they need to be promising? And so we have an exchange that way, and they must make a contract. However, if that person breaks that contract, that soul part will go again, and it will be much worse the second time. And it may well never come back. So understanding that the word that you used was jigsaw, which was excellent, really, because it's like pieces of jigsaw that perhaps have gone down behind the couch. You've got this beautiful jigsaw and there's this big hole there. You kind of know what the picture's supposed to be, but it's just missing. And it would, nothing else will fit. And there are so many different ways that that can manifest itself. And I think that story is one of the things that happens a lot, where we can get into spaces and places that we can find the bits and pieces that we might have lost there. Fairy tales are a vehicle that I use a lot to allow people to understand how to journey, how to get connected with power animals who are spiritual guides, and they are there to imbue you with their powers. So that's why they're called power animals. You have and men usually want this one, a lion, strong and steady and really brave. And when you think about them naturally, they lie down a lot and they just, they just know how to just take their time and they don't use up all their energy at once. But my goodness, when it comes to needing to really roar, they can do it. So if someone is needing that kind of energy, they may get a lion. I did have one person once who said that he was going to get tiger because, he's a man and he's so this, that, the other. And I ended up, when we journeyed for him, we ended up bringing him back a little thing called a dick, which is a teeny tiny deer that cries. Because he was totally out of balance. Now, these things are not done, can be done this way when you're talking to somebody, and that's where hypnosis comes in to a certain extent, because you're changing state. Magic happens when you're changing state, and you understand that there are spaces between spaces. There are little alleyways, little ways to get under and right into amazing places. And you can sometimes see things, you can sometimes intuit things, you can sometimes feel things, or you'll just hear a voice. And it will start to allow you to get to know what's going on and tell you what it brings for you. So if you were going to have a power animal, Maxine, what would you have, do you think?
Well, I do have a power animal. My journey over the 20 years is I've went and I've done a lot of training, and I did shamanic training, although I tend to follow the Polynesian shamanic way of living, their principles in life. And yeah, Huna, and more about their principles. So when I went on, my power animal, my first power animal was a buffalo, and it was wonderful. But my main power animal is a stag. And I've got a story, if you're willing to listen. Oh. It's my daughter is in the process of moving to London, and we were down last week, and it's just been a journey because we're in Scotland. By the time we've had flats ready to view, and by the time we've got there, they've gone. So what happened last week was exactly the same. We went down, phoned up in the morning, flats were gone. So I thought, I'm just going to go with the belief that the flat's there for her. And I just got the thought in my head, email them, ask them if they know anything's coming up. Long story short, we ended up going to see the flat. The woman phoned back within minutes of the email. We went to see the flat. A perfect flat, better than what we ever expected. And we came out and she asked me the question, what do I do? Do I just cancel all the rest? That we had another 2 to see in the afternoon, or do we go and see them? And I thought, right, I said, you know, let's compromise. Let's not see the next one, and we'll drive to where your work is, and we'll see if you like doing the journey. And if you like that, take the flat. And if not, we'll go and see the one at 4 o'clock. And we were to go round in a horseshoe to get back onto the main road. And I just thought, just one sign to say that I've given the right advice. And we got to the lights and she went, Mum, look up there. And on top of the building, literally across from her window in the flat, is a pub called the Bald-Faced Stag. And on top of the building was the biggest stag I have ever seen. And I thought, there you go. That was the right place, the right time. And as I said to her, always know your mum's there watching through your stag. And she was like, I feel safe. And, you know, how magical is that? That everything, even the way the flat came about, and it's like, as I said to her, that the flat's already there waiting on you.
Mhm.
And not only the flat was there was the stag is there looking after her as well. Now, as a mum, I feel so, you know, just so happy to know that that protection is there, energetically there for her as well. And that is, as I say, every time I work with this, I just get sometimes overwhelmed with just how magical when you allow yourself just to step into that flow and allow your soul to take the driving seat, how everything just works out without all the hassle in life. It just seems to flow and it just flows and just all works out. And that
certainly does. It certainly does.
And back to the magical.
Yeah. Tanys, hello.
Hello.
You got here.
I did. So sorry, I had technical issues. Internet issues.
I think from what Trudy said, Mercury's in retrograde again, so we can expect things like that.
Yes.
So, Tanys, we've all introduced ourselves, so I think you should quickly do that too.
Okay, so I am Tanys Coughlan. I am founder of the Tula Lifestyle Community, Tula Lifestyle Academy. I am an intuitive energy healer, Reiki master, crystal master, Celtic shamanic high priestess, galactic ambassador, and and a channel. So I help my clients do all sorts of spiritual stuff. I come at it from many angles. So help them follow their spiritual journey wherever it takes them.
I think that's the important thing, isn't it? Because there's so many different ways to get people to understand and be in the state where they're going to be accepting, even though they come asking for that. There's a lot of, I'm not really sure if this is where I want to go because I've been on the internet and I've looked at that and I don't really like it. And then you say, well, why don't we try this then?
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things that it just, by any other name, a rose is a rose.
Mm-hmm.
It smells just as sweet as Ravi would say, but at the same time, we're still doing the work. And I think for me, a lot of people don't do the work because they don't know how and they don't know that it's actually there to be done.
Yeah.
So Trudy.
The great work is all about learning about ourselves, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, basically, if we don't, I came across the thought the other day there that came into my head and went, hello, that we're in the age of lotus eaters at the moment. They're all being put to sleep. They're all too busy looking at their selves, their outward selves, outwardly motivated, outwardly attending, not realizing that actually they're isolating themselves from themselves. And so life is slipping by and they're not learning what they need to be learning in order to actually survive this. But they don't care because they're taking the Kool-Aid, which is the other metaphor for it. So it's it's one of those things. Trudy, Reiki master person, you have a retreat place in Wiltshire. And we were talking earlier before we started recording. There was some pretty good stuff on there, I can tell you. We were starting to talk about all the different things that are around you magically and energetically.
So we have Glastonbury tour and Glastonbury itself, Avebury and Stonehenge, and between Glastonbury tour, Avebury and Stonehenge have all got ley lines to them, but also there's a place called Oliver's Castle, which is about 15 minutes from me, that is linked in with the others on the ley lines apparently. So yeah, lots of energetic connections.
For some people, they might not understand the difference between Avebury and Stonehenge. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
In my opinion, Avebury, you can go, it's a National Trust owned, and you can go and you can walk around the stones, you can touch the stones, you can be who you want to be, and you can just absorb the beautiful energy. It is a big circle, you can walk around it, you can walk around parts of it. There's one bit that's separate and you can walk around that as well. But there's just something very magical about it from the point of view of you can just be with the stones and be at one and just feel and connect with whatever you choose to connect to, whether it's ancestral stuff or whether it's present day stuff. It just is a very peaceful place to go to. Stonehenge is now a little bit more commercialized, so you can go and pay and see the stones, but you can't touch them unless it's on a solstice, is my understanding. And I think it's belonged to one of the heritages, which I can't remember.
English heritage.
Thank you. I was going to say I can't remember which one it is. Yes, Stonehenges, they're both beautiful, they're both lovely, they've both got wonderful energies. But if you want to go and actually absorb and be close to the stones, then Avebury would be the number one choice, in my opinion.
I must admit, Avebury is very impressive in more ways than one. If you are interested in seeing evidence of the Fae, then you can go there, and there is a stone that on occasions, not always, but on occasions, there's a dryad that looks just like Herne. Dryad is a fairy spirit that takes on the form of a person or godlike creature. Maybe it could be an animal, but you will look at it and it could be like a log of wood looks like a deer sitting. But this one stone that's right at the beginning in Avebury at the top of the avenue, in the little patch before you actually go into the avenue. Went there on a hunter's moon. Absolutely wonderful. Walked past this stone, did a double take, went round and looked at it. Hang on a minute, that's Herne. Wow. And the trouble started from there. But we won't go into that. Oh yeah, a sheep ate my keys. I had to go all the way back to Evercreech to get my spare keys. But then I did see a spiral.
You just said you weren't going to go into that.
She invited me. She wasn't privy to the conversation before. So, abridged version.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I saw 21 buzzards spiraling. And I wouldn't have done it if a sheep hadn't eaten my keys. Mm-hmm. Angela, have you been to these places?
I didn't live that far from those locations for quite some time. So yes, I have been to Stonehenge a couple of times, and I've kind of wandered around the stones at Avebury, but it was way before I started working in the field I'm currently in. So I'm funny feeling that I'd have a very different experience if I was to go now.
Oh.
But I've also been up and to the stone circles around Orkney as well, which are quite impressive. They're very, very tall, and they make you feel very, very small. So yeah, they're quite substantial as well. So I did feel the energy there, which is after I started this journey. But yeah, when I was down at Avebury, I didn't get the benefit, I think, because I would.
She's
Speaking
gone.
of
Oh, she's back.
benefits.
Yes. Speaking of benefits, she's gone again. She's in and out like a fiddler's elbow at the moment. Okay. And you're back.
I'm back.
Yes, you're back. I just saw your eye moving there. I thought, oh, she's in.
Move on.
So there are certain points in the world where energy flows more directly and more strongly than it does in other places. And the places and spaces that we've just mentioned are quite famous for these things. But all over the world, there are things like the Great Pyramids and the place in Cambodia and I can't remember the name of it just now. But they're all actually, now I was watching something earlier on which was really playing with my head. But all of these places are focused on Orion's belt, on the star system of Orion. Some of them are on the Swan, the Signet belt as well.
I think it depends on which viewing hole you look through as to which stars it was supposed to be pointing towards.
Yeah, and which time of year. But the interesting thing is that I was hearing about this guy who wrote a book about the Earth's crust moving very quickly and how the poles shifted very quickly. And so that throughout history, the poles have been in different places. And these temples, these pyramids, these big monuments are always set to cardinal points, more or less, for a specific purpose, to see these constellations, to understand where they came from, kind of thing. What they've done is they've calculated, and there was a pole in Greenland, there was one in Boston at one point, and if I'm not mistaken, there's been a little bit of noise about the magnetic pole shifting again. Coming up now.
It's overdue.
It is overdue. How do we keep ourselves? I mean, apart from the birds, how the hell do they get where they're going if they don't have these magnetic poles? Are we going to end up having flamingos in the back garden instead of sparrows at one point? Who knows? But it's one of those things that we tend to let that just go like that because we're so stuck in the mundane. We're so stuck in the trivia of just putting one foot in front of the other and existing in life that we forget to actually look at the skies and wonder, that we forget to actually think about our dreams and wonder again as to what was going on there. Why did I dream that? That was really strange, really happy, really sad. Why did I dream that particular dream and remember it than any other time in any other way? Actually, as we all know, we can train ourselves to remember all our dreams. And we can actually get ourselves to replay them when we're having a shower or when we're having our breakfast with a pad and pencil next to us. Pads and pencils in the shower are possible, but sometimes very soggy. So probably not a good idea.
You can get a special paper for that.
I know you can.
So-
I know you can. But, you know,
Or
that's just
do-
yeah. That's but I don't really want to remember my dreams in my shower because then I would just forget about being in the shower and probably end up like a prune. Because I'd be in there all the time going, oh yeah, and then that happened and that happened. So yeah. Particularly over the last couple of years, my dreams have been interesting, to say the least. Some of the stuff that's been coming into my head has been more than interesting. And sometimes there's the normalcy knock that says, don't worry about that. Just leave it. It'll be fine. And I often find, I don't know about you guys, I often find when I do that, something comes and kicks me later.
Often.
Yeah, you're not paying attention. Well, kind of 2 cars, a bus, an elephant, and a couple of horses. Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, and the
But now
Rottweiler.
you should know to pay attention, Leslie.
Yes, I do. I pay attention when I cross the road a lot these days.
Meant to the dreams and all other
I
signs
know,
that you see.
I know. But this is it. It's one of those things that we are spiritual beings. We have these amazing minds that can go beyond the physical tissue that holds all our organs in. And it's one of those things that I really think that we are walking universes.
Yeah.
I believe that all our interstitial fluid and all that is dark matter, that we have a sun and a moon and stars and different planets as different organs that are really affected by things. And I think that basically because of that, and I don't just think I believe it, because of that, we are universally attached to the bigger whole.
Mm-hmm.
And we are souls with a body, not a body with a soul. And that soul is always connected to the bigger picture out there.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah. You were talking about those high vibration sites. I'm wondering if I might share a couple of things with you, because I went to a crystal shop and there was a Stonehenge crystal. And it looks like this. It'll
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to focus in a little bit. And I picked it up, and right away I was taken there just from picking it up. I'm like, okay, I guess I meant to take that one. I also was given a crystal. You can't purchase these, I don't think. They have to be gifted to you. And one of my mentors was gifted a bunch of them to give to his students. And this was gifted to me, and it's actually a Giza crystal. So it's a clear quartz, because crystals are very programmable, right? So this one is programmed in the Giza pyramids during the Lion's Gate, which is that direct line. So, you can take little pieces of places with you and carry that with you to tap into that energy just by using crystals that are programmed in those spaces. So anyway, I just thought I would share that because I happen to be sitting here and we were talking about those places.
No, that's great. I mean, it's like we went to Brittany and we ended up in this amazing place with the stones, and it's like Callanish, and it's like, oh, they're just rows and rows and rows of avenues of stones. You have cornfields, and there's suddenly this lone stone standing in there. And they have this diorama thing in their museum, and it shows this avenue going across the channel when it was empty, when it wasn't full of water. And they show that there are stones still there that they can see now, but they've actually forward planned it and looked at it and said, this is where it was going. And it goes to the Avenue of Avebury.
Nice.
It's almost like a motorway for ancient man and woman to go traveling and to do the solstices, to get together, to understand what was going on. And we just don't realize that we're doing that. We don't realize that people did that in those days. We shortchange them so much. And yet they were more in touch with nature and more in touch with the seasons and could do things and understand things that we possibly never will.
I always call that like natural technology. Nowadays, everybody's so focused away from nature. And we were talking about this earlier, they're on their phones, they're on internets, they're away. We're literally, I even think about my childhood. I mean, we were literally outside. I mean, we weren't expected to be seen again until tea time. We only turned up when we were hungry. I mean, we didn't have technology as such. We didn't have phones. We didn't have this. we were out playing in nature all the time, right? You know, a bit of mud with some water in it became like our Lego. I mean, we could build things, we could get in there. We were expected to come in dirty with, we were expected to be put in the bath to be rinsed down after a day of play. But the kids don't have that anymore. So as I say, when we were out there as children, it was natural technology, because the earth, we got into the magic of, we could see the seasons changing, we could feel the energy, we could feel the water running through the flow of water. And nowadays, it's more about what phone you've got, all these games. I don't know, my daughter's got some of these game things. I don't even look at them. I couldn't even tell you what they're called. So I think that's the difference nowadays. There's just no connection.
There's a bit of evolutionary backward motion going on, in that we're getting genetic markers switched off as we go along. And some of the things that we would know that we would naturally do, naturally think of, and the way that we think and do things, these things are being switched off because they're not being used. And it is absolutely true. You don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
Karnak, that was where it was, not Carnage, Karnak.
I think also the season is so relevant to our lifestyle. Like, this time of year, we want to hibernate, we want to curl up, we want to nestle down, and so few people allow themselves to do that because their lifestyle is too busy. And I think if you can switch off a little bit, then obviously, or a lot, depending. Obviously, the busier you are, the more you need to switch off. But I think it's so true with the darker evenings and darker mornings. People just want to work around the daylight. I appreciate you can't do that in every country, because obviously Norway only gets 4 hours of daylight, but
Yeah,
it does encourage one.
They have their own things, though. They have their own ways of dealing with that. They have actually a more promising way of dealing with that. Although for a long time, particularly in Sweden and Finland, the suicide rate was very high, and depression rate still is, because of SAD. And I think that's probably where they discovered that there was such a thing. However, when you go into the Inuit areas and you see the people, and the Sami people, who are living with the reindeer and actually coexisting, and this is the thing, they coexist in the same ecology, and they actually thrive.
Yeah.
How do we not do that when we don't have like 15 feet of snow and, minus 45 degrees outside? We have it so, we think that -6 is like, oh, it's a disaster. The world is ending. No, it does get colder.
Whinge. We were having that conversation before we record as well. We like to whinge. Is it a British thing to do, to complain about the weather? Is that what we were talking about?
Yeah. Well, it is part of the conversation, Gambit.
We do it here too. But we have a snowstorm going on right now, so
I was going to say, you've got something to talk about. Yeah. We don't exactly have anything to talk about. You have something to talk about in Canada.
It's windy.
Still a little bit windy, yes. The only thing I'm worried about is the odd bird getting blown down the chimney. That's about it. Then I have to take the fireplace out to deal with it. But yeah, it's one of those things that we don't learn about death. We don't learn to accept it as a natural process. We're taught to fear it. It's a nasty thing. It shouldn't happen. But if it shouldn't happen, then why aren't we all living forever?
Mm-hmm.
There's a natural way of doing things. And yes, you can extend your life by being more spiritually connected and more able to understand that the mind moves the matter doesn't move the mind to the bigger extent, unless you let it. And that's where stress and stuff comes in, and this to-do list that we have to be so busy dealing with other things. We're just filling time because we don't know what to do when we don't have anything to do, which is a sweeping generalization, but you get my drift.
Totally.
People don't like being on their own because they don't know what to do with themselves. They have these kind of strange thoughts, like, why am I thinking that? But when they do that, they tend to brood into, oh, I wonder what this person thinks of me, or did I do that wrong? And it starts to get this ricochet. And that's a different kind of practical magic, in that you're depressing yourself. You're making yourself anxious. You're making yourself stressed. And actually, you could stop that. But we are so into the strategy, into the habit forming part of it, into this head down, trudge on, just keep going, keep on a straight line and you'll get there. And then you go to bed and suddenly you can't sleep. Because everything that you've tried to leave behind all day comes rushing in like the tide. So trying to teach people how to actually deal with that when they don't know that there's anything wrong or that it's fixable, that can be an issue. Which is why I do tend to have two prongs. I have the shamanic spiritual side and I have the more scientific side, because there are some people who are very wary of anything that could be deemed magic.
And yet magic is in our lives all the time.
We are magic. We're magical creatures.
Making homemade soup is witch's brew. You take all four elements and you put love in it. It's witch's brew.
I have been doing that all day. I have 7 litres of potato and leek soup, and I have another 5 litres of tomato and pepper. And tomorrow I'll be doing the cold remedy. So
you really did get your cauldron out.
I really did I got every cauldron in the kitchen out this morning. Truth. And stirred it with a big spoon too. Hubble bubble toil and no trouble. But yeah. The thing is that we have these ideas that somebody decided that would be fun to use, and they became bastardized, which is the witch with the hooky nose. When actually the witch is the wise woman, is the sage, is the person who knows what a poultice is. It's the person who can take your thorn out your foot and you won't get infected. It's the person who you will go to and will talk to you about your love life and let you see what's going on, be a sounding board. But they usually live on their own, and they have these things, maybe a cauldron in the old days, and they make potions. Actually, Andrew and I were talking about it the other day and said that would probably be me. At the end of the village, far enough away, but not too far, so that people could come and see me and get the odd potion or whatever, and then, fix things, do a little bit of work, and send them off on their way a bit happier than they were before. And that's not to say that it's going to work with everybody, because as we said also, a lot of this is self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
You can make a spell, a potion, or anything for anyone. If they don't believe that that's going to work for them, if they don't believe that you are actually doing things in their best interest, if they don't understand that they are the ones that are in power, what's going to happen?
Yeah, they'll just block the energy.
Yeah.
It's a known saying that people will only heal to the percentage that they believe they will heal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's all down to the power of mind again, So if a person comes in and they don't believe that anything can be done, I mean, the first thing is about changing that perception about themselves. And I always say, small steps. It's amazing that one small change, how that can be expanded upon. So, and always with clients coming in, going back to, how they see things and their perception, I always ask them, do you believe in religion or do you believe in something else? If it's religion, I go down the road of we can work through prayer, we can work through that. If not, we work through the power of intention. So it's about adapting even my speak and how I approach that with different people. because it's really stepping into their belief system and what they believe in order to make any change at all.
It's one of the tenets of
It's
NLP, though.
It's meeting them where they're at.
It's
And once you've met them where they're at and you've met them in their comfortable place,
Yep.
it's easier to guide them forward to where they want to get to, even if they've come in with that little bit of fear, a little bit of uncertainty, but they know something needs to change. They just don't know how to do it. So by meeting them where they're at in that comfort space, it is.
And she's back.
Easier to go forwards. I think that was the end of the sentence.
Okay.
Yes.
We've got there. We've got there.
Yes, totally agree with you on that.
So the only thing that people think about meditation, and one of the biggest fallacies is to clear your mind. Because everybody thinks that they have to have every thought they ever thought gone from their mind, that they can't allow anything in. But it's not about that. It's about...
What's wrong with that?
If you can do it, that's great.
But yeah, not all of us
Not
are
everybody
Fantasia,
can.
I mean, you are in a minority there, dear. Sorry, but yes. But even at that,
I'm
you
quite
can
happy
still...
in my wee minority, thank you.
I know you are. We can see that, gleeful person you. It's one of those things that when people find it hard to do, they think they'll dismiss it. Oh, that's just rubbish. That's, and it's the same with hypnosis. Hypnosis is a form of magic to a certain extent because you're taking someone to a different state that they can get to anyway as they dream, but you're doing it when they're awake. And of course, the knowledge these days is that we are always in a state of trance, just different trances for different parts of the day. And I think that's brilliant because it actually shows this oscillation, this wave of being in the world. And sometimes these waves are jagged and they're very, very tense. But if that's the case, we can adjust them. We can retune. We can get them to flow and to do what we need them to do. However, someone who is addicted to the to-do list, that I have to, that I must, I should do this, I've got to be there for this, they won't be able to live without me doing this. They're never going to find that switch unless something really, really interesting happens. And that interesting could be in the Chinese proverb way, in that it's not going to be a good thing. So
well, that's that kick that you were talking about, right?
Yeah, that's a big kick. Because sometimes it's a heart attack, sometimes it's a stroke, sometimes it's a nervous breakdown, sometimes it's just depression. And when I say just depression, then that's not really a good thing to say because it's not just depression. It comes with a whole host of other things. However, the brain loves to change state every 90 seconds or so. It wants something new to look at, wants something new to deal with. It's a machine that loves knowledge and loves to be doing something with it. When we're depressed, we are holding ourselves in one space, in one state. And that takes a lot of energy. So we get very tired. And then we get depressed about being tired. And we talk ourselves into it and spiral down. Trying to get that spiral to unwind itself is a bit like trying to get a hungry boa constrictor off of a pig. You have to know which end to go at first, because it will tighten up before it will let go. And that's where the magic happens, because language, they don't call it spelling for nothing when you get the word right. Language is power. We tell our story every day. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter that, as far as we're concerned, it's their story they're stuck in. They're the ones who are stuck there on the wheel. And they're repeating the same words all the time. And there are some people who like doing that. They're actually comfortable there. We call them serial seekers. They'll go to every form of healing that they can find, and they will eat up the attention, and they will get in there, And then they'll go, yeah, it was really nice, but it didn't work. I'm going to go and try something else now. But actually what they're addicted to is the good feeling of the energy that they're getting when they're being healed. And something inside them says, this is what you know. This is what's safe. Keep doing that. And you'll be fine. Because you don't know who you are. You don't know who to be if you're not this person. And yet the person that they're not being could be the most amazing, wonderful, adventurous, and very, very necessary person, because they might be holding the answer to something for someone else that they'll never get while they're in the spiral.
And if we're not living our true being, we're really not living up to that potential for what we can bring to the world as a whole either.
Yeah, but this is it. How many people do you know that they have a purpose?
I think a lot of people know that they've got a purpose, but I think the majority of people just don't know what that is.
Yeah, that's, that's my
would say
experience.
that.
I must be here for a reason, but I don't know the reason. So what's the point?
You know, that's what you hear. That's the cry. You know, I'm here. I know I've got something. Back to that feeling inside. I'm here. There's something inside. To me, that's the soul crying out, you know, for that journey within to find that. But instead, we're going out with, we're looking at other things, we're listening to other people, we're going on what this person says, that must be it's right for them, so it must be for me. But everything for yourself is within you.
Yeah, and it's also like that thing where people go in for the reincarnate. Oh, I was reincarnated. I was Cleopatra. So were 50 million other people out there. So, you know, how did that work?
It's very rare that you hear that somebody was wee Mrs. Jones down the road.
I know. I mean, I do have the thing where I was shamanic in most of my lives. Apart from when I was a Dutch merchant and I was being very nasty to my young wife. That was interesting. That was a lesson and a half. But yeah, I mean, being shamanically inclined in different areas, you know, I wasn't like Napoleon, I wasn't Cleopatra, I wasn't Queen Elizabeth or anybody like that, the first. But it's one of those things that the Buddhists say that when we're born, that is the first near-death experience that we will have on that 5 inches from the womb to the outside. Is the near-death experience that will split your soul so that the memory of your past lives goes into the ether and you just walk ahead with maybe a smidgen of an idea, because it didn't split right, that you may have been somewhere before, that you may have done something before. And I understand that, I get that. But a lot of people don't realise just how close they are to death when they are giving birth. And the whole energy around that and the magic that's around that as well. Because you're ensouling and being ensouled and things are starting, and this little moment is like a big bang, because you're becoming a new universe. And what's going to happen to that universe is predestined, or is it? Because sometimes there's a choice there. I kind of like the idea that, you know, fate is what's left when you don't go towards your destiny. Fate's your booby prize. So it's like, you know, you don't walk your dharma properly, then fate's what you get. That kick. And then you
case, an elephant.
Yeah, but you know, in fairness to her, she didn't see me and I didn't see her. You know, I was looking at a rather pert bum. You know,
of the elephant variety.
No, of the male human variety.
That makes a bit more sense.
Yes, but there you go. And I was 14, so there was a lot of hormones going on. There was a lot of magic going on there, I'll tell you.
I think we'll change that. We'll park that one, shall we?
Yeah, let's park that one, please. But yeah, so guys, come on, Trudy. Magical things.
I think it's all magical, but it's what you're drawn to. I like Reiki. Is kind of like my passion alongside the other things I do, but I just love seeing how people experience it, how they feel it, what they feel, how they react to it, and what it can do for them. So that some people will come and see me because they've got an ailment, some people will come and see me just because they feel run down, some people come and see me because they understand Reiki and they know it can make them feel different, and some people just want to feel chilled and relaxed, you know. But as I say earlier, I've got one person that likes to call me the magic lady because he comes to me with a particular ailment and I do Reiki and he goes away a lot happier. And he calls me the magic lady, which I think is really lovely. But it's not me that does it, it's him that does it. And I just do my job, which is the healing side, and then he goes away and feels magic.
Reiki is a conduit situation, isn't it? Because you are the conduit. Yeah. So you're not actually putting anything on for yourself. It's all just, you're like Reiki Airways. The exit is here, 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 and here. And I'm just I'm guiding you towards, you're the captain. I'm just here to assist you in doing where you want to go. But that's like you, Angela, isn't it? Because I think it's absolutely amazing that this particular platform, Zoom, has allowed us to see magic at work from great distances.
Absolutely. Yeah. So apparently it's quantum physics, but I've not quite in any other way. But
yeah, the quantum physics is playing with you at the moment.
Mercury retrograde.
It's because you said woo-woo at the start of the session.
Oh, it's my fault. Of course it would be my fault.
We'll blame it on Mercury retrograde. It's okay.
That's true, because the thing is that, particularly with kinesiology, having been in session with you, the fact that you do muscle testing on me when I'm not anywhere near you, but you still get it, it's still right, that is a connective situation that's going way beyond what is happening in this thing. I mean, the only way that I can explain it to anybody that asks me about it is that this is all energy, and we are energy workers. So we're using our energy. Yeah, exactly. But just for the sake of this situation, we're focusing on the energy of the laptop, of the computer, the energy waves, the microwaves that are going out through this. Riding on those, almost piggybacking on them, taking the energy that we're sending out. But it wouldn't matter anyway, because we don't need the laptop energy to do it, because the energy we've got, we could probably, I think it was Bill Bryson said that we had enough energy in our brains to split the world if we used it properly and knew how much we had. Each person has that amount of energy in them. So we learn to use that. Oh my goodness. Voldemort would be a pimple in the arse of the world.
Yeah, the COVID thing really pushed me to try more distance stuff than what I ever thought would be possible. I remember getting a call from one of my clients who used to live here in Ottawa, and she moved out west, so like the other side of the continent, and she was having trouble with some spirits in her home. So I do house clearings, but normally in person. And I thought, okay, well, I've been working on my astral travel. Let's give this a shot. And fortunately, she was super sensitive. So I was able to get like feedback right away. And I just had the intention of astral traveling to her house, and I cleared her house, and she felt everything that I was doing as I was doing it. And I was like, this is pretty cool. So, so, you know, when we have things like COVID and we have technology, and all the technology did was really allow me to visualize where I needed to go. So when we talk about taking our energy and putting it somewhere, as long as we are sure of where we're going, it's really all about intention. And that really sort of did a whole lot of revolution on my practice after that, because I started doing all sorts of things. I mean, I'd already done distance Reiki, you know, because that's part of the teachings, but it's become so much more than that. In terms of that, I've even cleared houses in England, actually, from Ottawa, Canada. So it really is. It's like, it's the quantum physics thing. We can be wherever we intend ourselves to be, and that's that bilocation piece, the astral travel. And you know, people often don't believe it until they actually experience that piece. So yeah, so that's been a fun journey to get into that. You know,
I find it very convincing when it's an animal.
Yes.
Because people can say, oh well, they just think that you were doing that, and they kind of like it's this kind of placebo effect kind of thing. And then I had one of my students, actually, her cat had an accident, and her tail had been broken by a car running over it, and she'd pretty badly bruised and upset. And we'd gone over to see her, and she'd said to me, can you do something? And I said, well, yeah, I'm just going to ask her if that's okay. So I had a chat with the cat, and then I went home, and I said to her, I said, right, I said, I want you to watch her from the time that we start to the time that we finish, and I want you to pay attention to what happens. So I gave her a time, and I'm sitting here at that time, and sent the whole stuff along. And she's on the phone to me almost the minute that we finished. Don't believe this. She's more comfortable. She started purring. She's doing this. She's doing that. And I said, well, yeah, cat's purring. They're in pain also. But I get you. She's more comfortable. You will know her better than that. Did you do that? And I said, well, I could only do it because she gave me permission to.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
And I think it's always amazing because, you know, they do say that we only use 10% of the power of our brain. And, you know, we always talk about this, about everything being limitless. And then we automatically put in things, our thoughts that limit us. We know that we can do amazing things. Astral travel, it's intention you're putting out there, having that clarity, excuse me, to do things. And I remember when I was doing the shamanic training, we had a house rabbit and it took ill, and the vet basically told us that it wouldn't survive. And the girl that I was doing the shamanic training with, one of the girls was like, you know, you're putting this animal through pain. You should put, you know, the easiest thing and the best thing for the rabbit would to put it down. And I did a journey to the rabbit and spoke to the rabbit, and it said no, that he was quite happy. He had 2 years to live, and that he wanted to go naturally. Now I came back and I said that, and it was a case of, oh well, you know, she was doing the training, so she believed and did that, and the rabbit lived very happily exactly 2 years, literally to the day I actually spoke to that rabbit. And if other people had their way, the rabbit would have been just taken to the vet and put down. You can speak to them. You can relate to these. If you have the belief, you can do it. And as I say, it's our beliefs that limit us. And if we can get beyond our beliefs and just into the magic of everything, look at Mother Nature. I watched a program and it was the world from one of the space stations, and it just showed a picture of Earth just hanging there in space. And we're living on that, and we're just suspended in this space, nothing around it, no strings holding us up. You can't get more magical than that. So why are we trying to say that things like making a potion or doing a spell or astral traveling is woo-woo or something that's not believable? Just have a look at the world from space and see it hanging there. And then you tell me you can't believe in magic.
Well, there you go. Now, we're all connected. Doesn't matter what we're doing. But belief is what counts. And if you believe, then it will work. If you don't believe, then it won't. And sometimes it will come up and kick you when you don't believe, and you should. Just to make sure you realise you missed out on something. This is a big subject. It's an amazingly big subject. There's so much that we could be doing on. We could go on for hours, but it's time to stop now. Because I've got to go and put my potions in ashes and put them in the freezer. So, thank you, everyone. And we'll see you for the next one, which is all about love, which is another kind of magic.